1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. Hi and welcome to the Ruby Tuesday. My name is Ruben and this is my review for Netflix's original French horror, Marianne. When a horror novelist takes a break from writing, she discovers the demon from her book exists in the real world. This malevolent spirit named Marianne draws her home and insists she continues writing or else. So if you are a horror fan, you're probably going to love this. It's probably going to remind you of things like Drag Me to Hell and The Exorcist and Freddy or Nightmare on Elm Street. If you take Nightmare on Elm Street. If you take all of those and put that in together here, mix it with kind of a bit of world cinema. It's French. I would suggest that you don't go and watch the dubbing because the dubbing is awful. Also, in the original language, when Marianne is speaking through people, she changes her voice and you don't get that in the dubbing. So there's a lot of inflections and voice work within the artist from the original people who are acting, obviously, that you won't get in the dubbing. So that's kind of my tidbit for this series. Watch the original with the subtitles. But yeah, so you take all those content and you put it together and you draw it out into a series, and then what you have is something really quite creepy. The tone of the Marianne series is really quite horrific. There's this consistent theme of creepiness. If you're like me and you're easily scared by these type of horrors or this type of spiritual horror, then you're going to find it difficult to watch. You're probably going to drop down the controller volume and hide behind your eyes at quite a few places. It's not jump scarish, it's just when it reveals the horror of what Marianne is capable of, it's really creepy. And the images within each episode will stay in your mind for quite a while. I think this will be one of those series that people will talk about, like, do you remember when Freddy did this? Or do you remember when Candyman did this? Do you remember the song or the nursery rhyme from 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you? If you probably sing in the rest of that theme tune or song in your mind now. There is that in this as well. It's very cleverly edited as well. So it's a book. It's at multiple timelines because you get different flashes of how it comes to be, and you see seances and you see people messing with things they probably shouldn't, because that's what happens when you mess with seances, people. There's this book of transitions, which I think is well done because of the writer. So she's writing things and they're coming to... So the protagonist, who is the writer, is writing things that she shouldn't be because obviously Marianne wants to infect the world with her evilness. Without going into spoilers, the creations within this series are really horrific, but I think they're brilliant as well. There are certain scenes where I was horrified, but what I was seeing was awesome. If you can think of something like Pan's Labyrinth, anything Del Toro does, like horrific with monsters. There are creature designs that I wasn't expecting to see. The way they are float, so not creature, demon designs or witchy designs. The way they are portrayed on screen will often leave you scared, but also going, wow, that was cool. I would love to see a behind the scenes of how they made this, because I think the creativity within this horror is probably part of the reason why it's so good. So you take the cinematography of how it looks and the willingness to not always be super close into the face, because I think that's a technique that you use within horror to sometimes make it scarier. But because they're willing to show more open spaces at times and still have it scary, I think is a testament to the quality of this. But they do that kind of close shots, and there are times when I'm leaning around because I'm wanting the camera to swivel around the corner to look left or to look right, because you don't know what you're going to see within an episode, and it very cleverly does that. There are moments where you see Marianne in the background just kind of there, or weird things hovering above beds, or when it is genuinely in your face, it's also really creepy. It kind of doesn't let up. In each episode there is something for you to get genuinely scared about. But the actors in this were also good. I felt like they carried the story enough for them to be entertaining. But I think the strongest point of this series is by far the story, the way they tell the story. So there's this journey that the characters go on, and I feel like the ending is worth it as well. It's often hard to finish a series like this. It either leaves it just kind of, it leaves you just feeling like, oh, well, that ending wasn't good. There are a lot of horrors that have a great story, but when they get to the end, you're like, what? The original Stephen King miniseries, the end of that was a giant spider. And so you go through that whole thing and you're like, what? And that's just an example. There are many other examples, but this, they end well. And I'll leave you with this question. What do you think happened at the end? Do you think there's going to be another series? They certainly are suggesting there could be, but it feels like they've also contained a story, which I really like. So this complete arc, which you go through if you can handle it. You might not have seen it all because you're hiding behind duvet covers and things, but if you are a fan of horror, I think you're going to love it. The only thing I would say is definitely have it on the subtitles and listen to the original language, because you're going to get what the directors and the storytellers intended, the original content of how it should be viewed. It was genuinely scary for me, but I do get scared easily at this type of horror. I love Scream, that kind of horror. That doesn't bother me too much. I can handle it, although, the jump scares get annoying, but the spiritual horror always creeps me out. And I thought it was genuinely scary. So if that's what you're looking for, you're going to love this. Let me know in the comments below whether you've seen it, or you're intending to watch it, or maybe you were on the fence, you're like me. It is scary, so take that on board, and maybe that will help you decide whether you need to see it or not. What are your favorite horror series ever or movies? Let me know in the comments below. But most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.